I want to dedicate my most sincere words to express my deep gratitude to all of you, the ones who have accompanied, listened, and supported the message we share. Every share, every word of encouragement, or simply your presence on this journey, is an invaluable gift that ignites a flame of passion, empowering us to remain steadfast in our mission to spread the truth. In this ever-changing world, being able to connect with hearts that share the same yearning is not only an honor, but also a motivation that reinforces our belief. Every contribution, no matter how small, carries sacred meaning. Did you know that when you share an article, join a discussion, or even take a minute to listen, you become an essential link in the chain of transforming perceptions? Those seemingly simple acts become bridges that help the truth overcome every barrier and reach hearts still in search. No contribution is insignificant, from an encouraging message, a follow, to profound critiques. Each plays a part in building an honest, courageous, and compassionate community. You have helped us understand that the truth does not need to be flaunted. It must be shared with an open heart. On this journey, we not only want to convey a message, but we also wish to honor your own values. The person who dares to stand for what is right, who uses small actions to right monumental change. Perhaps you haven't realized it yet, but your companionship has become the guiding light for many others. Every time you choose to support the truth, you plant a seed of kindness in this world. And that seed, nurtured by our community, will forever blossom into the mighty tree of trust and integrity. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for giving us the chance to listen, share, and together with you, continue writing new chapters where the truth always shines. Always believe that each one of us is a torch, and when we light the fire together, the darkness will never be too great to obscure the truth. If you are reading these lines, know that this is no mere coincidence. This is a sacred interruption, a key to message sent just for you from the universe, like a bell awakening the soul, reminding you, this is your moment. Whether you have contributed before or not, whether you feel ready or deserving, you are always loved, seen, and an indispensable part of this grand picture. You are the chosen one, not because you are perfect, but because the universe believes that you carry within you a unique mission only you can fulfill. Maybe you haven't realized it, but every step you take, every thought you have, even every fear you experience, is an important signal preparing you for this moment. Do you think you haven't done anything? Not at all. Just by existing and breathing, you have become a beacon in someone's dark night. The universe does so. Not measure your worth by what you have done, but by the infinite potential that lies within your heart. Don't let a past of silence or hesitation make you forget your own power. For this very moment, right here, you are invited to awaken and shine. Listen to that call, not with your ears, but with your heart. This is not an ultimatum, but an invitation to embark on a journey of courage and freedom. Do you feel a surge of passion warming your chest? That is the universe whispering, believe in yourself, as we have always believed in you. You do not need to become someone else, nor wait another second. Everything you need, determination, wisdom, sensitivity, has been granted to you from the moment you were born. Why you? Because this world needs you, the real you, not an idealized version. Your uniqueness, the scars along your journey, are what make the message you carry so distinct and authentic. Do not fear if you do not know where to begin. Sometimes, the first step is simply daring to believe that you are worthy. Today, the universe is handing you a bridge, not to cross, but for you to build yourself. Let this message be the wind that fans the hidden flame within you. You were chosen not to become a hero, but to become the most radiant version of yourself. And when you dare to stand up, you will see. The whole world is waiting to witness your brilliance. O chosen one, this is your time. Take a deep breath, open your heart, and step forward. The universe is watching. In the journey of life, the burdens, challenges, and feelings of loneliness that seem like invisible barriers often leave us weary and full of doubts. However, if you look a little deeper, you will realize that they are not punishments or curses upon our fate, but rather the subtle tools of life that shape your mind and spirit to become even more resilient. Just as a blacksmith uses fire and a hammer to forge a razor-sharp sword, the difficulties you face are the universe's way of preparing you for a grand mission that only you have the ability to fulfill. Human history has proven this through shining examples such as Esther, Joseph, and Moses in the Bible. Esther, an ordinary girl, suddenly had to confront the pressure of saving her entire people from annihilation. Joseph was sold into slavery and wrongfully imprisoned. Yet it was precisely these adversities that taught him lessons in patience and vision, eventually leading him to become a leader in Egypt. Moses grew up alone in the desert, far from royal comforts, but his solitude became the quiet moment in which he heard a divine call, guiding his people across the Red Sea. None of them escaped the seemingly dead-end phases, yet it was precisely these challenges that became the crucible forging their extraordinary qualities. Similarly, when you feel that life is weighing heavily on your shoulders, when the pressure makes your heart pound and loneliness seems to drag you into darkness, know that this is a sign you have been chosen for a special responsibility. What you are experiencing is not random, but a process of measuring your inner strength, helping you realize and overcome your own limits. Every time you rise after a fall, every long night spent in silent contemplation, and every tough decision you make all contribute to refining your insight, courage, and perseverance, the indispensable traits of a true leader. Believe that if the universe entrusts you with burdens, it is because it has seen you as worthy of a great responsibility. Do not resent or reject them, for even the most severe hardships often hide the most meaningful gifts. Your mission may not be immediately apparent, but every step taken through adversity is the way you write your own story. A story worthy of remembrance, just like the figures who have gone before you. Life is constantly in motion, and every moment that passes holds opportunities for healing, breakthroughs, or receiving blessings. Yet those doors do not remain open forever. They gradually close with the flow of time, like the last rays of sunlight fading beyond the horizon. Procrastination, whether born from fear, the illusion of a perfect moment, or a defiant attitude against the wise counsel of reason, can turn the destiny of an entire generation into an enduring debt. History has shown the harsh lessons when people refuse to listen to their inner call or ignore the signs of their times. Moses hesitated before accepting his mission to lead his people across the Red Sea. Jonah ran from the call to save Nineveh. Their acts of avoidance not only subjected themselves to turbulent storms, but also endangered their communities. This proves that every act of disobedience plants a seed of discord, quietly growing into a thorny forest that future generations must laboriously clear. When you again avoid that important conversation with a hurting loved one, when you postpone healing a fractured relationship with a someday promise, or when you miss an opportunity to make amends out of pride, you are unknowingly adding more weight to the burden your descendants will carry. The silent cracks of today may become deep chasms that separate families in the years to come. Business ideas buried out of fear of failure may rob the next generation of the inspiration to dare and act. Even your refusal to face your own psychological wounds risks transforming into a painful legacy for your children, because unhealed wounds have a way of spreading across generations. Do not confuse patience with procrastination. Patience is actively preparing while waiting for the perfect moment. Procrastination is standing still in the shadows of fear. Consider a field. If a farmer does not sow the seeds at the right time, the land will become barren, and the drought will persist into the following year. Life operates under the same principle. Missed opportunities do not simply vanish. They manifest as visible burdens in the form of regret, broken relationships, or unfinished dreams accumulating over time. Therefore, do not let stubbornness or short-sighted calculations prevent you from taking action. Listen to the whispers of your heart. Dare to step beyond your comfort zone, and remain true to the deep values within you. This is how you not only rescue the present, but also plant the shade tree for the future. For every righteous action you take today, however small, is a brick building a solid bridge toward a brighter tomorrow. In every community, there exist individuals like mighty trees that silently endure storms to shelter the forest. They are the unseen pillars, the chosen ones, who bear the mission of upholding the spiritual foundation that many cannot shoulder. Unlike the image of a heroic figure shining in radiant glory, they usually appear quietly, like the thread connecting shattered lives, or like a silent lighthouse amid a dark sea. Their mission does not end with overcoming personal adversity, but rather encompasses the journey of transforming pain into the strength to uplift others, just as Moses led his people through the desert with a faith refined through years of solitude, or as Jesus bore the cross to bring the hope of salvation. Sometimes they are the single mother who struggles to provide for her family while keeping her home intact, the young teacher who holds his ground in a remote area, using knowledge to ignite dreams in children, or the artist who uses music to mend the broken souls of thousands of strangers. They do not shy away from burdens, for they understand that the very cracks in their lives become the openings for light to shine into the darkness of others. As exemplified in the story of Joseph in the Bible, the years of slavery and imprisonment taught him compassion, so that when he ascended to power, he did not seek revenge, but instead extended a helping hand to save an entire nation. This demonstrates that the maturity of a chosen one is not measured by personal might, but by the ability to transform life experiences into a tool of healing for the community. Being a spiritual pillar means facing a unique loneliness. the solitude of the trailblazer, of the one who must shine in darkness so that the weak may find their way. Yet, it is precisely through this process that you discover the most enduring strength does not stem from personal achievements, but from the tears you wipe away for others, from the smile you kindle on a face shrouded in despair, or from the way you rise after failure to prove to an entire generation the capacity for rebirth. Every resolute choice you make today could become the inspiring story for a child a decade later, empowering them to confront adversity. Every time you courageously love, even when hurt, you inadvertently teach those around you the lesson of compassion. Therefore, if you feel that you are always shouldering more than others, take a moment to reflect. It may not be a harsh fate, but a sign that the universe is bestowing upon you the gift of becoming a bridging link. You are chosen not to shine alone, but to lift those with weary legs, to ignite the spark in frozen hearts, and to prove that amid a world of constant change, there still exist eternal foundations of love and steadfast determination. This mission, though quiet, will forever be imprinted on the developmental journey of the entire community. Within the swift currents of life, there are moments that are not merely fleeting seconds, but sacred calls rising from the depths of the soul. You may choose to see this message as just another random video, gliding past and fading into oblivion, or recognize that this is the fated appointment arranged to awaken the dormant potential within you. Stop curling up in the whirlwind of doubt. Do not allow the fear of, "Am I up to the task?" to turn you into an onlooker in the grand drama of life. For the pivotal question is not whether you are chosen, but whether you dare to step out of the safe shadows to answer the call of the Creator. Even knowing that such a journey demands unwavering faith, ultimate sacrifice, and an absolutely obedient heart. Religious history has recorded those who dared to set foot on that thorny path. Abraham, who left his homeland upon an unseen call. Moses, who relinquished his shepherd's staff to wield the scepter and lead an entire nation. Mary, who bravely accepted the mission of becoming the mother of the Savior, despite harsh prejudices. They were not superhuman, but souls who dared to believe that every sacred promise must be realized through concrete actions. Today, that call still echoes through every challenge you face, through the constant pondering of life's purpose, or through the moment your heart beats wildly upon witnessing injustice that must be eradicated. If you choose to evade, the opportunity will not vanish, but it will transform into a burden for future generations. Like a hesitant Moses, who might cause the Jewish people to wander lost in the desert. Your actions today not only shape your own future, but also write the continuing history of the community. Do not wait for a grand sign. Begin by daring to listen to the voice of your conscience, by refusing mediocrity, and by living fully for a noble ideal. Obedience is not blind submission, but the courage to follow the truth even when it comes at a cost. Sacrifice is not a loss, but an investment in an everlasting legacy. Every time you choose honesty amidst countless temptations, every time you extend your hand to help the weak despite your own hardships, that is how you answer a heartfelt yes to your divine calling. So, do not let time pass in regret. See this moment as the final invitation before the door of opportunity closes. Ignite the flame of faith. shoulder the cross of responsibility, and step forward with the mindset of one entrusted with the mission to change the world. For the universe never ceases to wait. You are the answer to someone's prayer, the indispensable piece in the grand mosaic of creation. Life is a journey that continuously presents challenges for each person to discover their true self and create unique value. The difficulties and obstacles we face every day are not merely invisible burdens to be swept away. They are the laboratories where our will is forged and our experiences enriched, thereby creating a unique spiritual legacy for ourselves and those around us. Just as a jeweler refines pure gold with fire, life uses adversity to sharpen the qualities of humanity. Every time we surpass our own limits, we not only resolve the problem at hand, but also accumulate a unique fingerprint of experience, something that can only be acquired through real-life clashes. The stumbles of our 20s teach us lessons in patience. Sleepless nights under work pressure build our adaptability, and even the pain of loss helps us grasp the true value of love, each becoming a precious ingredient of life. This legacy does not exist in the form of material assets or dazzling fame. It crystallizes from a set of spiritual values honed over time. It might be the extraordinary resilience that inspires future generations, a life philosophy formed through countless choices, or simply the serene attitude of embracing all of life's fluctuations. When a determined mother raises her children amid poverty, she is not only building a future for her kids, but also, perhaps unknowingly, writing a handbook on courage. A leader who dares to face a crisis to protect a community is quietly establishing a benchmark of responsibility. Even the way we treat a stranger in a moment of vulnerability can become a seed of goodness in their heart. This process is akin to sculpting a monument of legacy with one's own passion and tears. Every righteous decision at a crossroads, every time you rise after a failure, and every moment when you choose principles over personal gain, all contribute a carving to the grand bas-relief of your life. Unlike material legacies that fade with time, a spiritual legacy lives vigorously through its power to spread and connect. It becomes a beacon that lights the way for others, a story of inspiration that transcends space and time. Therefore, instead of lamenting fate or seeking to evade challenges, embrace them as the final opportunity to perfect yourself. For it is within the crucible of hardship that human dignity is refined, and from the ashes of difficulty, your immortal legacy will gradually emerge. Human history has been written by those who dared to turn adversity into a launching pad, transforming pain into a flame that lights hope for all eternity. Figures like Sojourner Truth, Terry Fox, and Nick Vujicic are not merely symbols of courage. They are living proof that the limits of human condition can be shattered by unyielding determination, and from the cracks in fate, the greatest light can emerge. Sojourner Truth, a woman born into the chains of 19th-century slavery, proved that true freedom must first be wrested from within the mind. Beaten, exploited, and stripped of control over her own body, she refused to let her pain turn into submission. Like a seed germinating from ashes, her voice thundered like a storm against the forces of racial and gender discrimination. She traveled, barefoot across the country, and every speech she gave was a powerful strike that shattered the oppressive weight on human dignity. Her timeless question, "Am I not a woman?" became a drill that pierced through the wall of prejudice, proving that one's worth is not determined by skin color or gender. Her legacy is not only a contribution to the abolitionist movement, but also a lesson in transforming personal humiliation into collective strength. The 20th century witnessed Terry Fox, a 22-year-old with a prosthetic leg, redefine the meaning of the impossible. Cancer had claimed his right leg, yet it could not extinguish the burning desire in his heart. His marathon of hope across Canada was not merely a fundraising run, it was a spectacular demonstration of the human spirit's defiance against destiny. Every painful stride along the 5,173-kilometer journey echoed the heartbeat of a soul that refused to surrender, and every drop of sweat spilled on the roadside catalyzed global compassion. Although cancer forced him to halt his run, Terry's ignited torch evolved into a perpetual relay, uniting 40 nations in a continuing race of hope. He passed away in 1981, yet every step taken by the 650 million people who participate in races bearing his name each year declares, pain can be transformed into action, and personal tragedy can be reborn as a communal legacy. Nick Vujicic, the man without arms or legs, demonstrated that even when life robs one of all physical means, the human spirit can still soar. Born with a rare condition known as tetra amelia syndrome, Nick once contemplated suicide at the age of 10. But in the darkest hour of despair, he realized that the value of life is not measured by the number of limbs one possesses, but by the power of the love one gives. He learned to write with his 2 tiny toes, swam as nimbly as a fish, without fins, and eventually became an inspirational speaker who reached 60 countries. Every time Nick embraces a disabled child with his imperfect body, and every story he shares about being bullied at school, he opens a door of hope in the hearts of his listeners. Through his organization, Life Without Limbs, he turned his physical limitations into a message. No circumstance is hopeless, only people lose faith. 3 lives, 3 battles against adversity, yet united by one profound truth. The stumbling stones along life's path can indeed become the foundation upon which one builds a legacy. Sojourner Truth used the voice of the oppressed to shatter the chains that bound millions. Terry Fox transformed the agony of cancer into a bridge that united humanity. Nick Vujicic proved that happiness lies not in what we possess, but in how we make use of what remains. They are like El. In the journey of building a spiritual legacy, the boundary between being chosen and obedience is the measure that shapes one's destiny. Being marked by the Creator with a sacred imprint on one's life does not equate to possessing a get-out-of-challenges free card. Rather, it is an invitation to engage in an even more arduous battle, a battle against the very disobedience within one's soul. Just as a potter grants a lump of clay the choice between remaining as a senseless mass or undergoing the transformative fire under the skilled hands of the artisan to become a precious vessel, every chosen individual must face the paradox. The halo of a mission is often forged from the key of obedience. Biblical history weaves together bright and dark exemplars in the attitude toward embracing divine destiny. Moses, trembling at the burning call among the thorns, nearly lost his role as the liberator of the Jewish people, while Jonah, who fled from his prophetic mission, was swallowed by a great fish, a stark warning of the consequences of rebellion. In contrast, Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac was not born of blind obedience, but of a profound understanding that true submission is the key to unlocking the door of an everlasting covenant. This exposes a crucial truth. Being chosen is only a seed of potential. It will forever lie dormant beneath the soil without the nourishing rain of surrender. Yet many who carry the title of the chosen end up making themselves victims of circumstance. They drape themselves in the mantle of a spiritual patient, using a painful past as a shield to justify stagnation. A modern-day Job might curse his fate when he loses his possessions and blame the Almighty for his misfortunes, never realizing that such an attitude of grievance is slowly burrowing and burying the legacy entrusted to him. When a person frames themselves as the aggrieved, they inadvertently hand over control of their destiny to external forces, much like a candle that refuses to burn for fear of melting, forgetting that light only emerges when one dares to ignite oneself. True obedience is not the mechanical act of a slave, but the conscious surrender of a warrior who voluntarily offers his personal armaments before the Creator. It demands the courage to peel away the mask of victim, to don the armor of responsibility, daring to tread the narrow path despite knowing it is fraught with thorns. The greatest legacy humanity can leave is not measured by the number of miracles performed, but by the footprints in the desert of faith, those steps that do not retreat despite scorching sands and a burning sun. As Jesus demonstrated in the Garden of Gethsemane, the moment of absolute obedience, when he uttered, "Let it be done according to your will," was the most powerful instance ever unleashed. For when we cease demanding that circumstances bend to our will, we truly become collaborators with the Creator in constructing an immortal legacy. The journey of transforming one's mindset from "why me" to "what is the Lord preparing through me" is the turning point that frees a person from the labyrinth of victimhood and ushers them into the sanctuary of spiritual maturity. The difference between these two ways of thinking is not merely a change in grammar, but a revolution in how we interpret the meaning of suffering, shifting from viewing adversity as an unjust sentence to understanding it as the crucible of grace. When Job wrestled with the depths of his loss, he moved from questioning the Creator with "Why was I born?" Job 3:11, to proclaiming, "Before my ears had heard of you, now my eyes have seen you." Job 42:5. That journey paints the portrait of a mind liberated from the bitterness of grievance, ready to bear fruit in the garden of understanding. The "why me" mentality is like a black box that drains the life force, where every hardship transforms into a spike that pierces one's self-esteem. It traps us in a vortex of meaningless comparisons. Why do the wicked prosper? Why must the righteous suffer? Yet when we replace the question mark with an exclamation point in the declaration, "This is the tool the Lord uses to refine me," every challenge suddenly becomes a revolving door leading into the cosmic classroom. St. Paul illustrated this with the image of a clay jar, 2 Corinthians 4:7. The fragile exterior of mortals is precisely the condition for God's power to shine forth. Every crack on the vessel is not a flaw to hide, but a gap through which divine light can filter. Seeking purpose in hardship requires a vision that transcends the immediate walls of our present. Just as Joseph, sold into Egypt by his brothers, continuously questioned, "What did the Lord intend by this tragedy?" he eventually recognized that the seemingly random series of events was the very path leading him to a position where he could save an entire nation. The storms of life are not meant to drown us, but to teach us how to stand firm amid raging waves. When a single mother struggles to raise her child, if she sees it as an opportunity to cultivate patience and compassion, the burdens of daily life become an exercise for the soul. A war veteran bearing scars may choose to view them as reminders of a painful past, or as medals certifying his extraordinary resilience to inspire the next generation. How we interpret adversity determines the quality of the legacy we leave behind. Each time we choose to listen to the whisper, "You are chosen for a greater purpose," rather than the cry, "Life is so unfair," we are sculpting the raw stone of destiny into a monument of meaning. Just as a grain of wheat must be crushed to become the bread that nourishes multitudes, the process of transforming pain into the drive to serve is the most sacred act of sacrifice. This is not about sugar-coating reality or denying pain. It is the brave act of peering through the dark veil of circumstances to glimpse the light of purpose shimmering on the horizon. In the furnace of life, every challenge is an invisible hammer forging the eternal qualities of the soul. The pains that seem like punishments, betrayal by loved ones, unexpected loss, or the loneliness amidst a crowd, are, in truth, catalysts. For a great transformation, much like raw gold must reach 1,764 degrees Celsius to expel impurities. The greatest artisan is none other than destiny itself, where each strike of adversity is not meant to destroy, but to sculpt the exquisite features of one's character. When a jeweler pours heart and soul into a precious gem, they understand that it is only through the pressure of the hammer and the friction of the grinding stone that a diamond begins to shine. Consider the story of Damascus steel, a legendary material forged from layers of iron with contrasting properties. Through hundreds of rounds of red-hot heating, pounding and folding in the flames, disparate molecules are forced to bond, creating an alloy that is both resilient and razor-sharp. Human life operates under the same principle. Those seemingly conflicting experiences, joy and sorrow, success and failure, trust and betrayal, when forged with perseverance, crystallize into comprehensive wisdom. A CEO who once faced bankruptcy once shared, "The scars of my bad credit back then now stand as a testament to the hard-earned lessons of my leadership." Similarly, a mother who has lost a child learns to transform her unseen pain into an outward organization that supports families in similar straits. This process demands the courage to radically shift one's perspective. Instead of crying out, "Why does the fire of life burn me so?" ask instead, "How must I adjust the temperature of my mind to become rust-resistant steel?" As Nietzsche once wrote, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger," though this only comes to pass when we deliberately rise after a fall. Betrayal teaches us the lessons of choosing one's companions. Loneliness hones the ability to confront oneself, and loss compels us to build a new system of values from the ashes. When the flames of misfortune burn away our fragile exterior, the inner diamond core is revealed. The hardest moments are often the incubation phase for breakthrough. A seed must crack its shell in the cold earth for its sprout to reach the sun. A royal butterfly must struggle to break free from its chrysalis to gain the strength to fly. Our tendency to lament adversity is akin to a pearl that resents the grain of sand within it, forgetting that it is precisely this irritation that creates its lustrous luster. The greatest legacy a person can leave is not cast from gold or jewels, but is crystallized from the sweat that falls onto hot soil, the tears that soak into dusty ground, and the adversities that refine our very character. When we understand this, we learn to smile and welcome every challenge as the supreme hammer that chisels us to shine amid the darkness. Hesitation in obeying the call of the Lord is not merely a fleeting act, it is a choice with far-reaching consequences, one that trades away both the present and the future. When individuals delay accepting that sacred invitation, they not only forfeit their personal chance to mature in faith and mission, but also inadvertently sow the seeds of repercussions that extend for generations. Each moment of indecision is like closing the door to grace, where the talents granted by God, much like the silver pressed in biblical parables, are buried beneath layers of fear, selfishness, or indifference. These spiritual treasures, which could yield manifold rewards through bold action, instead become burdens of judgment when neglected. The consequences of concealing God's blessings do not end with the individual. Every generation inherits the spiritual legacy of those who came before. Moral values, lessons of faith, or even the wounds left by past shortcomings. A parent who evades the message bestowed by the Lord unwittingly passes on a fractured legacy, not through words, but through a passive example of life. When that pressed silver is not wisely invested, both family and community lose the chance to experience the miracles born of wholehearted dedication. Biblical history bears witness to this through figures like Elijah, whose spiritual heritage failed to endure solely due to a lack of preparation for the next generation. Moreover, procrastination creates a vicious cycle within the spiritual realm. Unfinished tasks become burdens for others, and broken promises weaken collective faith. When an individual does not live out their calling, they unwittingly rob future generations of the opportunity to see the Lord manifest in their lives. A life tree that bears no fruit leaves no seeds for the harvest of the future. However, this message is not meant to instill fear, but rather to serve as a clarion call to the power of immediate obedience. Every action taken in response to the Lord in the present is like the first stone laid in building the castle of legacy. When we dare to live fully for a sacred purpose, not only is our personal life transformed, but future generations will stand upon a foundation of faith forged from our boldness. Just as Moses led the Israelites and David prepared the way for Solomon to build the temple, wholehearted obedience always ushers in new chapters for the history of salvation. Therefore, do not let hesitation steal from you the opportunity to become the link that extends God's love to all humanity. The obedience to the sacred call is not only the key that liberates one's soul from the shackles of fear and selfishness, but also the torch that illuminates the journey of healing and transformation for the entire community and for generations yet unborn. When one dares to step forward in obedience, they are not merely opening a new path for themselves, They become the source from which waves of grace ripple through space and time. Biblical history bears countless testimonies. Abraham's obedient departure from his homeland became the foundation of a blessed nation. Rahab's daring act of sheltering the spies not only saved her entire family, but also earned her a place in the genealogy of the Redeemer. Every act of dedicating one's life to God's will is like a seed sprouting in the desert. It not only bears fruit where it is sown, but also creates an oasis for thousands of souls seeking refuge. The responsibility of each individual in obedience carries deep communal significance. When a father decides to abandon harmful habits to live according to God's word, he not only liberates himself from the bonds of slavery, but also shatters the ancestral chains that have bound his lineage for generations. When a mother chooses forgiveness over resentment, she not only heals the wounds of her own heart, but also reshapes the collective memory, ensuring that her children grow up in an atmosphere of grace rather than prejudice. These seemingly private choices are, in fact, building tools for a spiritual legacy. They shape core values, create the launching pad of faith, and rewrite the family story from the perspective of the Creator. On a broader scale, an individual's obedience can become a resonant miracle for society as a whole. The story of Joseph testifies to this. His faithfulness amid adversity not only saved Egypt from famine, but also preserved the lineage of Israel, thus paving the way for the plan of human redemption. Similarly, when a leader dares to live righteously, an entire nation enjoys peace. When a pastor chooses to love the flock over personal glory, the whole community rediscovers hope. Every "yes, I will" spoken is like the chime of a bell awakening the dormant potential within the collective conscience. It inspires others to follow courageously, creating a movement of faith that overcomes all barriers. Perhaps the greatest power of obedience lies in its ability to shape a future not yet seen. Every decision to live according to God's will today is a brick laid in the foundation for generations to come. When we dare to abandon false security and embark on the journey of faith, we are gifting our descendants an invaluable inheritance: the right to partake in the promise, the experience of God's steadfastness, and the freedom to continue writing new chapters in the story of redemption. This is how the obedience of a lifetime becomes a bridge linking the past with the future, a stream of grace that flows unceasingly through each generation, that lives boldly for the kingdom of heaven. The call of the Lord is not a bell that endlessly echoes in an empty void, but rather a resounding drumbeat that sounds only once in the history of a lifetime, a unique opportunity to touch the eternal purpose. When we choose to live in survival mode, merely scrambling to meet transient needs, we transform ourselves into wanderers distracted by picking up seashells at the foot of a mountain, thereby missing the dazzling peak of destiny. Such a purely existential life is like building a house on sand. No matter how hard we try, it leaves no lasting mark for the future. For what we accumulate is merely the fear of remaining safely caged by habit. But when we shift to a building mindset, every choice suddenly becomes a living brick, fired in the kiln of revelation, bonded with the mortar of wisdom, and designed to withstand the storms of generations. This clarion call resounds like the roar of the prophet Joel across a barren field. Awaken from your self-satisfied slumber. Every day we postpone building our legacy, is a day we allow time to steal the spiritual inheritance meant for our descendants. Do not confuse the busyness of mere survival with the energy of constructive living. As a builder who spends his life mixing mortar, but never dares to lay the first stone for the temple, the Lord expects that we will not be treasures buried in the earth, but rather flourishing fruit trees whose harvest is sweet for those who come after. Look to the example of Noah. Amid a society steeped in sin, he spent 120 years steadfastly constructing the ark, not to save himself alone, but to build the means of salvation for all of future humanity. His legacy was not merely a wooden vessel, but a lesson in faith that looked beyond the stormy horizon. Shifting to a building mode requires us to fundamentally change our mindset. From consumption to investment, from focusing on personal needs to nurturing enduring values. Let us construct a system of faith through the habit of prayer. Every morning, establish wisdom by meditating on the Word of God like a jeweler polishing precious stones, and set up emotional stability on the foundation of steadfast love. These seemingly small things are, in fact, the instruments for transferring spiritual authority. Just as Elisha received Elijah's mantle, so future generations will stand upon the values we painstakingly cultivate. When you dare to live as a faithful steward of the present, you become the architect designing the blueprint for a new Jerusalem in the hearts of your descendants. Now, as the sacred call continues to resound, let each beat of your heart harmonize with the anthem of bold commitment. Do not let today's worries become the walls that separate you from tomorrow's legacy. Remember, the very hands holding the tools of construction today will become the blessed hands for future generations. Just as David prepared all the materials for Solomon to build the temple, you are. The transformation from a victim mentality to the mindset of a creator is not only a change in how one views oneself, but also a pivotal turning point in crafting a meaningful life. When one remains immersed in the role of the sufferer, it is all too easy to spiral into a negative vortex, blaming circumstances, feeling powerless in the face of challenges, and limiting one's own potential. This mentality acts like an invisible cage that binds creativity, rendering us passive and resigned to fate, rather than daring to act to change our reality. Yet, the moment we choose to cease our lamentations and begin to rise as one entrusted with a mission, everything is seen through a different lens. No longer are you a victim led by life's currents. You become the architect actively designing your destiny. The power of a creative mindset lies in transforming pain into motivation and turning obstacles into lessons. Instead of asking, "Why me?" a creator will ask, "What can I do with this situation?" This subtle shift directs our energy towards solutions rather than mired problems. When we embrace responsibility as a sacred calling, every hardship becomes an opportunity to hone our resilience, and every failure a stepping stone toward success. This does not mean denying past wounds or injustices, but rather actively redefining the value of those experiences. This journey demands the courage to face both ourselves and the world. Creators understand that true power lies in our ability to respond to adversity. They build trust in their inner strength instead of relying on external factors. It is this proactive spirit that enables them to forge lasting change, not with temporary fixes, but with a system of values nurtured through even the smallest daily choices. When we cease to see ourselves as the center of tragedy and start acting like sowers, our legacy becomes not only personal achievement, but also an inspiration for future generations. It might be a groundbreaking idea, a humanitarian organization, or simply a spirit of resilience that spreads throughout the community. For the greatest strength of humanity does not reside in what we receive, but in what we dare to give and build from the ashes of adversity. In the flow of life, there are decisive moments that, if missed, rob us of opportunities that can never be regained. The call from God is not something to be postponed or taken lightly, for every second of hesitation carries profound consequences, not only for the present, but also for the spiritual legacy we leave for future generations. God's timing is always perfect, yet the door of opportunity He opens exists only for a limited time. When that call resounds, it is not merely a personal choice, but a sacred mission, a response that demands the courage to step out of our comfort zone and relinquish the mundane. Each person is entrusted with a unique task, like a puzzle piece in the grand picture of a magnificent plan. If we close ourselves off to that call, we not only lose our own sense of purpose, but also deprive those around us of the chance to experience the grace that could flow through our actions. Hesitation often stems from the fear of failure, self-doubt, or a habit of blaming circumstances. Yet remember that God does not call the perfect. He offers opportunities to those willing to take the plunge. Abraham left his homeland, Moses faced Pharaoh, and Mary said yes, even when she did not fully understand. All chose to believe in the promise, rather than cling to a limited sense of security. The consequence of shutting oneself off is not merely regret, but a series of spiritual repercussions. A generation deprived of a model of faith, a community losing the chance to be awakened, a family unable to find guiding light. In contrast, when we answer the call, even with small steps, it becomes a seed that germinates in the soil of our times. Do not let the illusion of, "I'll do it when I'm ready," deceive you. God's chosen moment is not when everything is complete, but when your heart is sufficiently yearning to obey. The door of opportunity can close suddenly, like a downpour that ceases abruptly, or a harvest season that passes as the crop ripens. Look beyond the present. The spiritual legacy you build today will be a beacon for your descendants, a testament to a life lived for a higher purpose. That call, even if you feel unworthy, must remind you that grace is always sufficient to transform weakness into strength. Therefore, do not let tomorrow steal away today's opportunity. Respond with action, step forward in faith, and sow with a generous heart. In doing so, the legacy you leave will not be one of regret, but a story continued by those you inspire to dare answer their own call. The journey of shaping the strongest version of yourself is never a smooth road. The burdens, pains, and pressures that seem like adversaries are, in truth, powerful instruments in the plan to train and purify your soul. They are not punishments or signs of abandonment. Rather, they stand as evidence of the Creator's love for those He calls to a great mission. Burdens teach us endurance, pain refines our will, and pressure sharpens our vision, all merging into a sacred furnace that prepares us for the moment of ripeness, when our mission is activated and our potential explodes. Consider the process of creating a sharp sword. Iron and steel must endure the blows of the hammer, to eliminate impurities, absorb blazing heat to enhance ductility, and then be plunged into cold water to harden. Humans are no different. Life's burdens, like the hammer's strikes, beat upon our mind and body not to crush us, but to forge a sturdy framework for our faith. Pain is like a consuming fire that burns away weakness, selfishness, and trivial attachments, rendering the soul purer. And pressure? It is like a stream of cold water that cools down impulsiveness, teaching us to patiently await the moment determined by God. Just as Joseph endured imprisonment to become Egypt's prime minister, or as David fled from Saul to learn compassionate leadership. The challenges they faced were the indispensable training programs for a destiny that had been promised long ago. When we understand that burden was training, pain was refining, pressure was preparation, we no longer resent our circumstances or ask, "Why me?" Instead, every hardship becomes a puzzle to solve. What lesson is God imparting? Which virtue needs to be polished? The way we confront today's adversity will determine the magnitude of tomorrow's legacy. Never forget, the more refined the gold, the brighter it shines. The more a gem is polished, the more its fragrance spreads. The greater your mission, the tougher the preparatory journey. For God does not bestow a crown upon hearts that have never known sweat. Embrace every challenge with the mindset of a warrior well-equipped for battle. When a heavy burden weighs on your shoulders, think of it as your muscles being trained. When pain rends your heart, trust that it is the fire refining pure love. When pressure surrounds you, view it as a skill assessment before the moment of deployment. Everything has its purpose. Every crack carries a message. You are strong enough to overcome, resilient enough to endure, and worthy enough to soar when your moment arrives. The legacy you leave is not built on easy strides, but on the indelible footprints pressed into the desert of trials, where courage and faith are proven. Those sleepless nights, the tireless efforts to keep everything steady despite receiving little thanks, all bear witness to your inner strength. In a noisy world where people often measure one another by fleeting applause, there is one eternal truth. You are seen by the Creator, who perceives the depths of your soul, not through the veneer of achievements or accolades, but in every breath, every drop of sweat, and every unhealed crack. The nights spent silently, bearing responsibility, the weary steps that persist in holding a family together, or the efforts to patch up the heavens with bare hands when no one seems to understand, all speak the unique language of courage that only the heart of the universe can gently comprehend. You are not a nameless speck lost in life's storm. You are a hidden gem deep within a mountain, even if the world has yet to recognize your light. God has called your name since the foundation of the earth. Remember Hagar in the desert. When she wept in despair, God saw not a forsaken slave, but a mother willing to sacrifice so her child might live. His seeing penetrates every mask, reaching into the darkest corners we hide. When you struggle with a pile of bills in the dead of night, He sees it as hands lifting up the dreams of a family. When you swallow your tears to preserve peace, He records it as the heart of a reconciler. what the world deems failure. Like a business collapse or an unfinished dream is, in fact, the cross you bear each day, a living testament to unwavering faith. Your inner strength, honed through the fires of trial, is the invisible legacy shaping the world. Just as Nehemiah quietly rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem amid scoffs and derision, your perseverance today is laying brick after brick for the fortress of grace in the future. Every small choice, from rising early to prepare breakfast for your child to deciding to forgive a betrayer, is like a needle stitching together the torn fabric of humanity. You may not realize it yet, but those moments that seem lonesome are actually times when you walk alongside Christ on the Via Dolorosa, where sacrifice transforms into the bridge of salvation. So, do not let the shadows of obscurity dim your inner light. Live like the golden lamp in the sanctuary. Even if no one sees its small flame, it burns continuously to keep the soul of the holy dwelling aglow. And one day, the long nights you believed were in vain will be transformed by Him into the North Star, guiding future generations to realize that it is your quiet faithfulness that ignited the flame of hope for your entire lineage. You were born not to play a minor role in someone else's tragedy, but to be the author who writes an epic of grace amidst the ordinary. Pain, loneliness, and pressure, what seem like invisible enemies, are, in truth, the sacred fire that burns away limitations to unleash your highest self. They are not curses or signs of destruction, but rather the seal confirming that you bear a mission beyond the ordinary, a task that not everyone has the courage or inner strength to undertake. Look deeper into the nature of adversity. A precious gem only shines after enduring friction. A grain-laden field must weather storms, and a person reaches spiritual maturity through long nights wrestling with themselves. The challenges you face today are not random. They are a special test reserved for the chosen. Consider Paul, who suffered lashes and imprisonment, yet within his chains wrote letters that moved humanity. Or Jesus, utterly alone in the Garden of Gethsemane, his pain was not a failure but the key that unlocked the greatest victory. This shows that the more sacred the mission, the more the journey is fraught with winding paths. When you feel drained by burdens, remember, pressure is molding you into the material that can bear the weight of a great edifice. Loneliness does not isolate you. It separates you from the noisy crowd so you can hear the sacred whisper. Pain does not destroy. It cuts away the ordinary shell to reveal the qualities of a spiritual leader. Many ask, why must I endure more than others? The answer lies in the uniqueness of your mission. A carpenter need not face a warrior's trial, nor does a soldier have to learn to sew like a farmer. What you encounter is the certificate that confirms God is investing more in you because He believes you can shoulder what others dare not even dream of. Do not compare your journey with anyone else. The fiercest storm only blows upon ancient trees whose roots run deep. Let every crack in your soul become an opening for light to shine through. Every tear transform into the anointing oil for the lamp of your mission. When you rise after failure, others will not only see resilience, but also recognize the mark of the Creator in the way He writes your life story in ink of hope. The legacy you leave is measured not by rounds of applause, but by the number of people inspired to embrace pain as part of their sacred journey. Therefore, do not fear the challenge. Step forward, even if you tread barefoot on stones, for you are walking on a path that only the brave have the honor to tread. The journey of Christian faith is not a smooth road, yet every step is secured by the eternal promise of God. The Bible likens his governance to that of a potter patiently molding clay, Isaiah 64:8, and passages like Philippians 1:6. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Serve as a guiding light amid the darkness of doubt. This promise is not merely a comfort, but a declaration. God never abandons the work He has begun. Every challenge you face, tears, failures, or loneliness, forms part of the plan to shape you, like gold refined in fire. Isaiah 48:10. Romans 5:3-4 outlines a sacred process. Suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. This is not an exaltation of pain, but a revelation of the Creator's purpose. Like a diamond, the most precious stone, forged under millennia of pressure deep within the earth, your faith is honed through adversity. When storms arise, Isaiah 41:10 whispers like the voice of the Almighty, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you with my righteous right hand." His presence does not prevent the tempest, but it turns you into an unshakable anchor amid turbulent seas. In this journey, Isaiah 10:27 unveils a mystery. The yoke will be broken because of the anointing oil. Ifin feeder fin. Here, the yoke represents not only the burdens of life, but also spiritual chains, fears, wounds, or sinful habits. The oil symbolizes the Holy Spirit, who shatters every bond as you persist in faith. This process does not occur in an instant, just as a vine must be pruned in its proper season to bear sweet fruit. John 15:2. God allows trials because He foresees a future version of you, a stronger warrior of faith, a heart filled with deep compassion, and a spirit liberated from all constraints. Consider Job, a man who lost everything yet did not lose his faith. Through the refining fire, he was not only restored doubly, but also declared, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." Job 42:5. That is the ultimate purpose of every trial, to bring you into intimate communion with the Creator. When you feel utterly spent, remember that He is holding your hand like a meticulous jeweler polishing a rough gem, so that one day you will shine as the embodiment of His grace and power. The journey of overcoming adversity and forging success is never a smooth, linear path. It is instead a series of breathtaking advances forged from perseverance, unwavering self-belief, and the ability to transform challenges into opportunities. When faced with obstacles, the first step is not to seek the quickest escape, but to maintain the stance of a warrior who never surrenders to fate. Every time you choose to rise after a fall, every decision to persist in the face of hardship is a brick laid in the construction of the future you desire. The difficulties that once appeared as impassable barriers actually become invisible launch pads, refining your keen willpower and accumulating invaluable lessons so that when the opportunity ripens, you have the strength to break through spectacularly. What matters is not the avoidance of storms, but the way you learn to balance on the vessel of destiny, turning headwinds into a force propelling you forward. Not only does a resilient spirit matter, but building a solid spiritual foundation serves as a compass amidst turbulent seas. The habit of meditation, contemplation, or those moments spent listening to your inner voice reconnects you with your primal strength, the reservoir of wisdom that transcends superficial turmoil. Alongside this, seeking like-minded communities becomes an invaluable source of encouragement. Kindred spirits not only share experiences, but also reflect back to you that you are not alone on your journey to conquer new heights. They are the lighthouses that ignite hope when you feel lost, the supportive hands when your knees buckle, and, most importantly, living proof that every effort blossoms into fruition when nurtured by steadfast faith. Especially the art of acknowledging every small victory is the key to keeping the flame of passion alive. Every time you give yourself a pat on the back after a long, exhausting day, every pause to smile at your reflection in the mirror, you are writing a success story in the language of self-respect and compassion. These golden milestones need not be grand achievements. They could simply be maintaining a positive attitude after days of disappointment or daring to experiment with something new despite knowing the risks. When you learn to honor the journey rather than obsess over the destination, you will realize that the inner strength is ever present, like an underground stream, continually flowing and waiting for the chance to shine. The most wondrous part is that this relentless upward climb transforms you into a stronger, more radiant version of yourself, a living masterpiece crafted from faith, determination, and love for life. Prayer is not merely a religious ritual, but the breath of the Spirit that connects humans with the Creator, where burdens are transmuted into grace, wounds into sacred scars, and the remnants of the past become the fertilizer for a new harvest. When you cry out for deliverance, like the prodigal son returning home, Luke 15:20, God not only opens the treasures of heaven, but also touches the deepest knots within your heart. Philippians 4:6-7 promises, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds." That peace does not erase adversity, but transforms you into a calm steward amidst the storm. For you know that the hand of God holds yours firmly. Every sincere prayer is like a seed that falls on good soil. Mark 4:8. Sometimes you may plead for physical healing, yet God is silently mending a shattered heart. Sometimes you entreat for a new opportunity, and He teaches you to see blessings in what once seemed insignificant, like the smile of a child or the steadfast sunrise each day. Jeremiah 29:12 affirms, "Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you." This is not a promise that every wish will be granted exactly as desired, but a commitment that every cry, every whisper, is heard and answered in the most perfect way, even if the eyes of mankind cannot fully comprehend it. In this journey, you are never alone. Hebrews 13:5 reminds us, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." God's presence is not merely an umbrella shielding you from the rain, but the strength that enables you to walk through the storm while singing a hymn of hope. Like Paul and Silas praying in the depths of the prison. Acts 16:25. When you feel chained by despair, it is in those very moments that the Holy Spirit shakes the ground and flings open the prison doors of darkness. You are chosen not to live a life of ease, but to become a testament to the power that transforms water into wine and the desert into a fountain of living water. The greatest blessing does not lie in wealth or success, but in recognizing that you are a child of God, a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. 1 Peter 2:9. When you offer your prayers, remember that He is smiling at you like a father watching his first wobbly steps. Even if you stumble, His arms are outstretched. And in His time, every tear will become a precious gem in the crown of glory. Every trial a stepping stone drawing you closer to the light of eternal love.